I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, puzzled, staring at my reflection. I could see other people's auras but never my own. When I focused, I finally saw it, a thin layer of shimmering white light surrounding me. But even more so, the darkness that enveloped me. What does this mean? Wake up, my Rosie. Wake up. His baritone voice sounded angry. With heavy eyes, I slowly blinked until my vision was no longer blurry. My body sluggishly shifted under the covers, turning over from my side to back, propping my weight up on my elbows, my eyes searching the room for the man who haunts my dreams. He sat in a chair on the other side of my room. His silver eyes were the only thing glistening in the darkness. I followed his eyes as he stood, walking to the foot of the bed. Rosie, what did I say yesterday? He pressed his clawed fingers against my bed, tilting his head down, showcasing his demonic horns. The angle of his face looked sharp and evil, his eyes partially hooded under his brow. He was full incubus, not hiding an ounce of his natural appearance. I'm yours, I said, biting my lower lip, my eyes dropping from his to my lap. He hummed to my understanding. His reached his hands outward, placing his knees on my bed. That's right, my Rosie. Protect what is mine, he continued while crawl up my body, his noise running along the full length of my body. He stooped just inches from my face, straddling me. His cheek grazed my soft flesh, his breath tickling my ear. I know what you did. I know your plan. If you give yourself to James, I will kill him. He whispered maniacally, drawing out his threat, before pulling back and locking his gaze with my shocked, blushed face. How? Was the only word I could manage to speak. How did he know? Has he been watching me all day? Eros smirked, revealing his left elongated canine, pleased with my red cheeks and disbelief. Let's just say I paid Madame a visit. He spat darkly. My mind started to fill with sorrow. He probably killed her. She gave me more information than he probably wanted me to know. She told me how to break the contract, how to redeem my soul from hell. If only I could have asked her how to keep Eros out of my dreams, how to protect everyone I cared about from him. If I save myself, he will kill James. Is that a kill I want on my conscience? I, like James I, don't want him to die because of me. Stay away from him. Or else, he warned, kissing my forehead, then vanishing. A trail of black like tar was left upon my comforter where Eros' feet trailed. He must have just come from hell, because that has never happened before. He didn't come to me in a dream this time. He woke me. Maybe with was a way to show how easy it was to hurt me. Or maybe he was seeing how close he could get to me in real life. My eyes drifted from my bed to my alarm clock. This neon green light showed 5:16 a.m. I had the sudden urge to pee. As I left my bed, the cold hit my body, sending shivers down my spine. Goosebumps prickled under my skin. The hallway to the bathroom was dark, so I relied on muscle memory to get me to the bathroom safely. The carpet under my feet kept every step as silent as a mouse. My fingers lightly slid against the wall, searching for the switch. With a flick, the bathroom lights blinded my eyes. Squinting, I closed the door, did my business, then stopped in front of the mirror. I can see everyone else's aura, so why not mine? I sat there for a second, staring deep into my green eyes. Nothing was happening, so I decided to close them. Maybe I needed to picture it to see. With that final thought, my eyes flickered open. It worked. I saw it. But I'm not sure I like what I see. Surrounding my body was a thin layer of shimmering white. It was more beautiful than I could ever imagine. However, the darkness surrounding my small figure scared me. There was more black than white, almost like the white was my last line of defense, protecting me from the darkness surrounding me. What does that even mean? Why do I have more darkness surrounding me? I always get the heebie-jeebies around those with dark auras. But with me, I had no idea. The more I find out, the less things make sense to me. But I know one thing's for sure: I have to break my contract with Eros. Find a way to protect the ones I love, and last but not least, identify Sage's killer. With that finally thought, I turned the hot water to the shower on. Stripping my large t-shirt, I stepped in, leisurely letting the water cascade down my curves. Careful to not let the water touch my face. Last thing I needed right now was another PTSD moment from drowning. Finally feeling fresh, I stepped out of the shower, tucking my red towel into my chest. I started blow-drying my hair, brushing out the natural wavy strands. I think today is a straight hair kind of day. I wasn't going to let Eros destroy my date with James. I have been looking forward to our climb together since he asked me. Eros was just scared he was going to lose me, and he should be, because I refused to be his. Dazzling my face to look less like death, I contoured, highlighted and blended my little heart way. I wanted to look good, and I knew it was going to take time. After an hour of playing with my face, it was time to straighten my long thick hair. This task always took at least an hour. It sucks. Next thing I know, the clock in the bathroom chimed 8:00 a.m. The house was still quiet, other than the music I was playing from the bathroom. I headed back to my room, searching for the perfect climbing outfit. Throwing clothes left and right, I finally found my black climb pants. They are not like normal clothes, they are tight-fitting but thick material, so that way they don't get holes in them. I paired it with a black tight sports bra and a tight-fitting teal tank top. With a pep in my step, I hopped my way downstairs, starting the coffee, waking the sleeping dead. French toast sounds like heaven. I started gathering my ingredients. I want breakfast ready for my family when they wake up. Damien's bedhead was the first to trudge around the corner. Morning. I smiled widely. He just looked at me with annoyance. Tone it down a notch, will you? His hoarse morning voice croaked out. I couldn't help the giggle that escaped my mouth, earning me an eye roll from my beloved oldest brother, while he poured his coffee. I'm making French toast if you want some, I offered him, continuing to focus on the task at hand, not wanting to create the Dean's specialty, a fire. Thanks, I'll take a few. He finally returned my smile, taking a sip of his coffee. You're up early. My mother chimed as her and Dean walked around the corner into the kitchen. The pair each grabbed a mug from the cupboard. Yeah, you got a hot date or something? Dean joked. I couldn't hide the smile on my face. My grin so wide my cheeks hurt. I was so excited and I couldn't wait to spend some one-on-one time with him. All eyes flickered towards me, because my silence was an indication of truth. You do. Damien choked on his coffee a little. With who? Dean asked in shock. Oh boys, stop it. My mother hissed, eyeballing the two. She turned to me with a twinkle in her eyes. Who is it, sweetheart? James Myers. Brothers. My brother's eyes widened while my mother just smiled with approval. After all, the boy I was about to go with already saved my life once. Well, that's wonderful, honey. My mother chirped. Both of my brothers, on the other hand, rolled their eyes with disdain. Maybe they had forgotten the fact that if it wasn't for James, their baby sister wouldn't be here. You would think they would be happy I went with a nice guy and not a bad boy. I could have gone with a bad boy. I still can. You two play nice. I really like him and he will be here any minute. I scolded them, as if they were my little brothers. Both of them looked at me, with mischief-filled expressions, keeping their mouths shut, giving one another knowing looks. They continued to eat their breakfast. God, I pray James can handle anything they throw at him. I silently prayed to God on James' behalf. My brothers would surely give him a hard time. With my final prayer, the doorbell rang. It wasn't just a normal bell, my mother liked melodies, so she thought it would be great to add a bell that lasted 5 minutes. I did love the melody though, one that will stay with me forever. My favorite things from The Sound of Music. It's so beautiful, old and elegant. My mother definitely has class, that's for sure. My brothers beat me to the door. Swinging it open, Dean and Damien blocked James from entire. My small figure was trapped behind these two Bigfoots, blocked my view. I could only imagine the looks they were giving him. I tried to push through my brothers, but to no avail, they effectively boxed me out. Bastards. Hi, is Rose ready? James' uneasy voice sounded. I couldn't see him, but I would assume he's probably looking very awkward right about now. I looked to my mother pleading for help, but she threw her hands in the air with a little smile on her lips, shrugging her shoulders, defeated. I could not believe this, women. We are the only women in this house. She should have had my back. I tried once more to break my brother's hips apart, when all I could do was stuck my hand between them and wave. So that's just what I did. Hey, I smiled to myself, while waving my hand side to side. I could hear James' little chuckle, which only made my insides melt. I loved his laugh. I hardly ever get to hear it. He's always been the boy without feeling. I liked this. I wanted more. My brothers finally separated, allowing my figure to push through the two. But before I could leave, both of their hands landed on my shoulders. I looked back side to side eyeing the two, telling them to knock it off. My brother Dean picked up the climbing gear bag and started ushering me out the house. It was like a police escort, so embarrassing. James just walked along with us, not uttering a word. I think my brothers effectively scared him. Dean put the bag in the back of James' red Mustang. When they stopped and stared at James, he stood next to his car looking dumbfounded and a little pale. "God, me again. Help the guy out. Come on, God, step in already." "Well, she's a lady. Are you going to open her door?" But Damien's authoritative voice startled even me. James scurried over to the passenger door, opening it to the fullest extension. I could tell his uneasiness just by the way he stood stiff, trying to act in a way that would please my brothers. When I took a seat, my brothers waited for James to sit and close his door. The windows rolled down gave them the perfect ledge to put their hands on, both leaning their faces to the driver's side window. "The only reason she is going with you is because you saved our little sister." Dean's voice hissed with intimidation, his face staying expressionless. Damien's eyes burning holes into James' face. "Don't let this cloud your judgment. Without that, she wouldn't be going." He matched Dean's harsh tone. James looked at them, his hands tight on the wheel. He was squeezing it so tight his knuckles were turning white. I couldn't stay quiet any long. This was enough. "Will you two shut your traps before I spill all your secrets to every beauty shop in town?" I questioned, pursing my lips, crossing my arms and arching my brow. "You want to play games? Let's play games." With that comment, both Dean and Damien's eyes snapped to me. I raised my brows, signaling, "Try me," because they know I will. My brothers both shaped up, smiling at James. "We're just kidding." Dean chuckled, punching James' shoulder. "Lighten up." Damien playfully bantered. "That was better. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Let me tell you, growing up with two older brothers, you learn how to bring the heat. I love the fact they want to protect me, but it's my life." I heard the laughter come to a halt. I couldn't see my brothers' faces, but I knew they put those stern masks back on, glaring down at James from above. "What ass hats? Really? Come on, James, let's go." I smiled sweetly to him, trying to calm the tension he was feeling. He started the car and smiled awkwardly to my brothers, standing a few feet in the yard. As we drove away, I saw my brothers through my side mirror, laughing hysterically and high-fiving. "Jerks. Sorry about them. I didn't know they were going to do that, or I would have warned you." I felt so bad I couldn't even look at him. I just sat there with my hands rubbing my lap. "It's okay, I knew you had older brothers." I could hear his light-hearted tone. Besides, it was a little funny, to be honest. He chuckled. Gosh, there it was again, that heartwarming little laugh. "I hope that's just the start, because I'm in love with these butterflies. The kind of butterflies that turn your stomach upside down. Almost like anxiety, only I want this feeling, I cherish it." With his little chuckle, I began to giggle, thinking how stupid my brothers looked and acted back there. "Well, I'm happy they didn't run you off," I playfully flirted, our eyes connecting just a moment before he turned back to the road. A huge smile lit up his face, showing his pearly whites. Man, he was sexy, no doubt, and the muscle shirt he was wearing hugged his tight figure. We playfully talked, awkwardly, all the way to the ridge. James drove to the top, parking his car. It was a beautiful day to climb, and Willow Ridge was the best view around. I snaked my arm into the back seat, grabbing the climbing bag. James and I made our way to the edge, looking down at the 200-foot drop, the excitement beginning to stir in my chest. I lived for this adrenaline rush. "You ready?" His eyebrow half cocked. I giggled a little, but it took me back. It was the exact same way he asked me if I was ready to jump the day I died. He was flirting with me and I didn't even recognize it. How stupid was I? The real question is, are you ready? I playfully flirted, challenging the athletic god. A little push to his chest with my dainty finger. This was going to be fun, and I wanted to enjoy every uninterrupted minute of it. With my show of flirtatious aggression, James leaned in, inches from my face, his sexy little lips smirking down at me, his breath fanning my flesh. "Oh, I'm ready," he whispered, his deep blue eyes filled with lust. "Date." We both went back to his Mustang, replacing our everyday shoes with sole climbing shoes. Out of all my climbing shoes, I fell in love with this brand best. They hugged my feet tight, pinching my toes together, but not to the point of being uncomfortable. James borrowed a pair of my brother's shoes, all black and dirty from our many climbs. Next came out harnesses, squeezing our figures to the point of a second skin. I grabbed our ropes and mountain climbing hooks, heading back to the cliff edge. Attaching both our ropes to separate trees, I knotted the best climbing knot I could fasten. A double overhead stopper knot, perfect for today's climb. From there I laced myself in James, strategically placing more knots and loops in the line. When I climb I make for damn sure I'm not going to fall. I gave James the rundown of climbing. He already knew most of it, he just needed a refresher course. I took my gloves, slipped them over my fingers. I held tight to the rope as I started to lean back over the cliff. With one last lingering look at James's handsome figure, I smirked, giving James the "let's go pretty boy" look, before kicking off to belay straight down and stopping a few feet above the water. I wanted to make it down here first so I could look up and see James's butt. These harnesses squeeze in all the right places. I already got a good look at his package from early. I'm normally not a dirty girl, but I think Eros has opened some unknown sexual gate. Because I have never thought of James in this way before. Beat you to the bottom? I sassed playfully, eyeing his butt the whole way down. Looks tight and hard from down here, I ogled like a dog in heat. Yeah, well, I'll beat you to the top. He flirtatiously challenged. Well, this is going to be fun. When our eyes meet, my sly smile started to creep its way across my face. I'll make a bet with you. I gave him the only face I could, the face of pure determination. I'll bite. What do I get if I win? He asked with non-pure intention. Well, if you beat me, which you won't, but if you do beat me, I will give you a kiss. I pursed my lips together, sending his a kiss in the air. I was feeling bold. Deal, he said with our hesitation. Then he hooked his fingers against the rocks and started to climb. That's cheap, I shouted. He started before we said go. We both laughed as we started to climb. I dipped my fingers in my chalk bag, giving me a better grip against the earth's mighty stone. I took a second to see my path. Sure, James was a little ahead of me, but I have been doing this for years. It's my passion. I know what I'm doing. So do you have any siblings? I asked, trying to distract him. One older sister, he added, staying focused. What about you? Any more siblings other than your two brothers? He knew what I was trying to do. But what a fun way to get to know each other. Nope, just the two. I huffed, pulling myself up with a little grunt. What's your favorite color? Red. He took in a sharp breath. You. Purple. I added. I kept quite waiting for him to ask another question, while I lunged forward for another hold. What's your favorite food? He asked, looking down at me. I took that as a chance to advance forward. Chins or Italian? I gruffly spoke. That display of noise received a chuckle from James. And you? I asked, stooping to chalk my hands once more. We were about neck and neck, 1/4 of the way up. He paused, putting more chalk on his hand before pushing upward. I like Italian pizza's the best, he playfully added. James has long arms and legs. With each hold, he was able to advance just a little more than me. If I want to win, I need to be quicker, more agile. With that, I lifted my foot to a crack located at my hip. With every bit of strength, I had to lift myself higher. I pushed with all my might, huffing with fatigue, until my body stood equal with his. A joyous triumph filled my fire with a smile I could hide. James eyed me with amusement. What's your favorite flower? He spoke with a quizzical tone. I bet he thinks he knows what it is. It's not a rose if that's what you're thinking. I giggled teasingly, lifting myself yet again halfway there. I didn't think it was, he said, a little defensive. I wouldn't like a flower with my name. He teases right back. Stargazer lily, I just love their beauty. The way the pink and white mesh together. It's truly one of God's best work of art. I love that flower. It was the first flower I ever saw planted in my grandmother's garden. It reminded me of happy times and loving memories. Well, as cheesy as it sounds, mine's a rose. But not your normal red rose. A wild rainbow rose. One that has all the colors. You know. He's right, that was cheesy, but he likes the rainbow. That's cute. As we climbed side by side, the answer of who we really were continued to spill from our mouths. James was a kind and passionate man, whom loves football, video games, his family, friends, and Mustang. We talked for what felt like hours as we finished climbing to the top. James' hand hit the top of the cliff I win. He spoke winded. A breathless giggle rushed out of my mouth with the air I was breathing. He stopped but I climbed till my body hit the ground. Correction. I won. I smugly looked at him. I made it to the top first, you're still dangling. I triumphantly teased, laughing to myself. My head fell back resting in the dirt. James crawled over the edge, sluggishly falling next to me. His breath as heavy as mine. You play dirty. He smiled. Our heads inches from one another. What did you win? He asked, his beautiful blue orbs searching mine for an answer. That I gladly gave him. This. I leaned over, locking my lips with his. It was soft at first. James' hand came to my jaw, holding me in the passion. When he pushed me to my back, taking the little dominance I had. His tongue caressed my lips, awaiting for his invitation to enter. He was passionate and strong but sweet and gentle. I parted my lips as the tango enveloped my mouth. He was an amazing kisser and I wanted more. My hands found his chest, seductively running my fingers up to his neck. I raked my fingers through his hair, taking my other hand to trace the light tickle down his jaw. In a way it gave me power, control I wanted back as I deepened our kiss. I wanted more but my lungs gasped for air. In unison we both pulled back, breathing heavy once more. With his eyes holding mine in the most intimate way humanly possible, he smiled down to me, running his thumb across my cheek. I'm happy you won. He cooed down at me with his award-winning smile. The heat in my cheeks felt unbearably hot. I sheepishly smiled back, feeling nervous with excitement mixed in a confused passion. What happened to the confident girl? My thoughts became a pep talk as I started to run my hands through this hair, gaining back the confidence I thought I had lost. I'm happy I did too. I playfully wrinkled my nose. Besides, if you won, it would have just been a peck on the cheek. I teased, not thinking of the position I was currently in. James looked at me with mischief in his eyes, pinning me to the ground. My joking caught up to me in that very second as he started tickling me. My abdomen immediately clenched from the sensation, sending me into a fit of laughter. It was the most ugly laugh anyone could hear. You know that laugh only your true friends hear. Well, when you're being tickled, that all goes out the window. James obversely didn't mind, as he continued to tickle the life out of me. Stop. I choked out. Gillies. I cried, laughing my head off. Still his assault didn't waver. What's the magic word? He continued, chartaling. You uncle. I cried. He was making it impossible for me to breathe. What a jerk. But I loved it. As the word left my breathless mouth, James sat up, leaving my exhausted. I was hoping you wouldn't remember it. He chuckled to himself. Our moment of bliss and flirtation was short-lived when 3 cars came zooming up to the peak. The occupants all stepped out, revealing none other than the 3 Gs and their posse, of course. Oh, sorry, hope we didn't interrupt something. Gia wickedly grinned. Bitch. Pardon the interruption. Gia sashayed over to James's side as he hoisted himself off the ground. She started to run her finger up his bicep, drenching her digit in his sweat. Looks like you've been busy. She smiled up at him, and he in return gave her a small grin. It was time I interjected. Ooh. I cleared my throat. We just finished and we're leaving. The words left my mouth with rapid fire. Gia's tore her heartfelt gaze from James to me, hate radically shifting her expression. Well, Rose. I didn't see you standing there, she said, flickering her eyes back to James, her expression changing yet again, a flirtatious grin stretching across her full pink lips. Would you like to stay and climb with us? Like I said, we're leaving. I hissed at her, tired of her games, when a familiar face walked up saying hi. Hey Rose, you been climbing long? Miguel asked while slipping into his harness. Miguel is one of my climbing buddies. He's homeschooled with his 6 other siblings, all of them ranging from the ages of 3 to 22. Miguel is somewhere in the mix. He's short like me with a handsome dark complexion, black buzz-cut hair with bourbon brown eyes, and little peach fuzz sitting upon his chin. In fact, this is where we first met about 2 years ago, I think. Miguel, what are you doing with this group? It sounded a little bitchier than I intended, and I'm sure my facial expression looked just as nasty. So I tried to smile, answering his question as to how long I had been out here. Just an hour. Cool, cool. Well, Gia's mother called and asked if I could take her and her friends climbing. So here I am, he said, smirking, his hands showcasing his body. I giggled a little, ignoring Gia's grubby hands on James' arm. He wasn't moving away, so why should I lay claim to what's not mine? You know what? I looked to James. Why don't we stay? I smiled to Miguel, not caring if James wanted to stay or not. He could leave. I know my way home. Great. Gia cheered, actually acknowledging my presence, running her hands down James' arm, giving him a little pull to follow her. James, would you help me with my harness? She innocently asked. James looked back to me, his hand rubbing the back of his neck. I don't know if he's asking for my permission or if he's feeling awkward, but my stone expression gave him no answer. He should know the right thing to say. Yeah, sure, he said, walking off with Gia. I watched as she played dumb, having him help her stick her feet through the footholes like a child. He helped her pull the straps tight, hugging her thighs. He then looped the hanging straps back through the buckles, his knuckles grazing her thighs. He wasn't dumb, he was a boy. He liked Gia, that's for sure, or he wouldn't have helped her. So much for this being a good first date. Miguel and I instructed everyone how to climb, not in every safety step we could think of. They all had helmets since it was their first time climbing. Ginger and Gretchen flirted with Miguel, while giving me death glares. I didn't mind though, they were harmless. Finally, everyone was strapped up and ready to descend. I elected to stay at the top in case of an emergency, with inexperienced climbers. Plus, I really couldn't watch another second of Gia's flirting with James. Call me jealous, I don't care. This was our first date and he decided to stay quiet and follow Gia like a puppy. Miguel smiles to me before pushing off. See ya in a few. With the last 5 teens including James descended to the bottom. James gave me a cheeky grin before leaning back to fall. I didn't want to react, but of course I smiled back. The kind of smile that shows every crevice of your teeth. I wanted to be mad at him, but he was making it hard. Time had passed while I sat at the top alone. The only noise heard was the chatter of climbers and the radio from James's car. I rolled the windows down to listen to the top hit station, channel 94. 1 FM, while I waited for them to reappear. Getting bored of just sitting there, I stood up to stretch my legs. Looked around at all the willow trees surrounding me, when my eyes caught sight of 2 dark figures just hiding in a bushy willow. I started to take a step closer. My curiosity always gets the best of me. However, the dark figures stayed put, as a dark mist seeming to clear up. Their legs were the first things I noticed. A slimmer man with black jeans and black Converse. The other man stood thicker, his legs bare just like his feet. He looked like a warrior of solid muscle, with thick hair lining his shins. I stood about 10 feet from the men, both faces still hidden behind the dense leaves, when a hand pushed the vines to the side, revealing his face. Eros. His silver eyes glaring at me with such anger. The scowl on his lips sent a shiver down my spine. I paused mid-step, not wanting to get any closer, only causing Eros to sharpen his death glare at me.
Come ia Rosie.
He viscously snaps. I wasn't about to obey him. Nope, I want to live. So I did the only thing I could do. I turned and ran. I didn't know where I was going to run, that he wouldn't find me, but I needed to run. However, the moment I lifted my leg to run, his hand snakes around my torso, pressing me possessively to his chest. I fought as hard as I could, kicking and scratching, but for some reason I couldn't scream. He tight grip roped around me, pulling me deep into the shaded tree. My hands desperately tried to pull against the willow branches, only for me to strip them of their leaves. He had effectively trapped me. I watched the light fade from my sight. The darkness swallowed me. Deep in the willow, Eros's slim-filled hands released their vice grip from my waist, turning me around. The palm of his hand pushed against my chest, making me stumble backwards. The bark on the truck smashes against my soft flesh, creating small scratches against my shoulder blades. I felt something wet ooze between my breasts. Eros's hands were covered in black slime. Behind him was a man standing 6, maybe 7 feet tall. He was very muscular, looking similar to a bodybuilder on steroids. His body was covered with a thin layer of hair and plenty of battle scars. The most prominent scar started from his left eyebrow, running down his cheek, stopping at his chin. He had large canine teeth bulging from his lips. The only clothing he wore was a brown leather-looking fabric. Draped strategically over his privates, he also had leather straps across his hairy chest. A look that screamed primitive like a Viking with caveman heritage. The look he held gave me the impression he enjoyed inflicting pain and I was his next victim. The scowl on his face was hard, like he despised my very existence. The pressure Eros was putting on my chest deepened, causing my attention to focus back on him. He stood before me in his full demonic glory, displeased with me, his hard glare threatening me. When he spoke, his words equaled his exact emotions: anger, jealousy, and frustration. What did I tell you, Rosie? You are mine. You belong to me. Your soul is mine to do with what I please. You cannot run from me, you cannot hide. I will always find you. With his words, the big man behind him grunted, infuriated at what Eros was saying, that or annoyed. I couldn't tell. Eros just ignored him while my eyes flickered down, ashamed of myself. I put myself in this position. Tell her. The big brute grumbled. Eros's muck-filled hand left my chest, his knuckles sliding under my chin. With little pressure, he tilted my chin so my green eyes locked with his. We have much to talk about, my Rosie. I suggest you sit down. He said this to me in the softest voice I have ever heard come from him. So without a word I nodded my head. Yes. I was about to slide down the tree trunk to sit in the grass, but Eros picked me up effortlessly, placing me upon one of the large willow branches, bringing me closer to eye level, for the two giants surrounding me. The big grizzly grumbled under his breath yet again, before Eros started to speak. Rosie, this is Eshma, a wrath demon. The wrath demon I fought, to claim you to be exact. My eyes flickered between the two. The realization came to me in that moment I was happy Eros won, because I have no idea how that barbarian would use me. Eshma here. Well, he owns your brother and your father's souls. The Finleys. They do as he says, helping Eshma to collect more souls. What he was saying made my brain hurt swell as my heart. I knew when I left after dinner it was darkness surrounding them, but I would never expected it to be a demon's claim. I thought the dark auras I was seeing was a person's emotions, the hate they held within them. I guess it's true in a way. Eros continued. Because you are part of that family, your soul is to be given to him. However, I won the fight for your soul. But even I have noticed in our encounters there is something inside you. Something dark that Eshma feeds on. He doesn't know what you did, but part of your soul will be willed to him when I allow. He spoke as if this was another contract, like splitting my soul in half was even possible. I felt confused, scared, but mostly outright infuriated. They were treating me as if I was properly to give and take. Well, guess what? That's not happening. You have no claim to me when I break our contract. I spat at Eros, not caring of his wrath. Then I turned my attention to the caveman standing with his arms crossed, making his arms look like basketballs. And you will never have me. I said with death laced in my voice. These two think they can use and abuse me, wrong? I will do whatever I have to escape the both of them. Mark my words. The barbarian chuckled aloud, finally sharing his deep voice. Amused at the little human, sitting on a tree branch clutching her fists. I wanted to punch the shit out of his stupid face. Fear was long gone, and stupidity decided to walk through the door. I pushed Eros back, hoping down and walking straight up to the giant, glaring with pursed lips. When he looked down at me like a smile child, amused. You are perfect. He smiled, showing his tusked teeth, entertained by my outburst. I gritted my teeth. Then I felt Eros' hands rest upon my shoulders, lightly pulling me back. A deal then? Eros asked the big guy standing behind me. Deal. He gruffed, not taking his eyes off me. Within a split second he was gone like a blink of an eye. The warrior standing before me had disappeared, leaving me alone with the incubus. I turned around, fists still clenched. This anger inside of me was building. I just wanted to kill the beast in front of me when he smirked down at me. That right there is why he wants you. He nodded. His right hand snakes around my hips, pulling me into his body. His left hand finding my sex, taking the breath out of me. The bastard. And this. He cupped his finger against my pelvis bone. Is why I want you. Lust evident in the sliver shine of his eyes. The confessed enjoying the feel of my body in the palm of his hand. My body reacted to him in a way I didn't like. It was becoming harder and harder to resist him. Like the contract he had with me was a forced bond, bending me to his will. I needed an exorcism or something, anything to stop this pull. I wanted to lose my virginity, but not here, not now, and not with him. In a split-second decision, I did what any girl would do. I kneed him in the balls. Forcing Eros to kill over, then I ran. Boy, was I happy in the moment that demons had balls. It felt like hours of time had passed when I made it back to the cliff. Ginger was just getting to the top. Her hand stretching to reach for me to help pull her up. Slowly, one by one, everyone came back to the top. However, I guess Gia had fallen into the water because she was soaked when she finished her climb. I inwardly laughed. She had makeup running down her face, looking like the hot mess express. Karma. I helped Miguel pack his equipment while James packed ours. Luckily, Gia wasn't flirting with James anymore, probably due to her embarrassment. I waved goodbye to Miguel as he left with the 3 Gs, who I'm sure will never climb again, leaving James and myself dirty, sweaty, and silent. In a panic, I remembered the slim on Eros's hands, causing my eyes to dart to my chest. The black thick slime once sliding between my breasts was now gone, including the black spots on my shirt from Eros' touch. Thank the heavens, because I had no idea how I would have explained those. James would have never believed me. It hurt a little thinking about what he did earlier, leaving me alone going with Gia. I liked him, but I don't think he likes me as much as Killian says. Or he wouldn't have ditched me to help Gia. I grabbed the bag sitting at his feet and walked to the Mustang, tossing it in the back and sitting in the passenger seat, patiently waiting for James. He strolled around the car, swung his door open in a haste, sat down, then slamming it shut. He sat there for a second, before turning to me. He was a bomb waiting to go off. What was that about? He boldly said, without raising his voice. What? I'm confused why he's mad at me. He's the one who went with Gia. You. When Gia was all over me. You just let her. You didn't say anything. He said a little more furiously. Now my blood was boiling once again. Me. You said nothing to her. This was our first date. I don't have any right to say you're mine or we are together. You're the one who agreed to help her. I shouted. I can't help it, my nice button was broke and the angry button was stuck. I was being nice. He retorted. Wow, nice one. Because you didn't want me to be nice. You wanted me to be the bitch that cussed her out instead of you. Just take me home. I hissed. I am done with this. That was unexpected. I was so mad at James for trying to turn this around on me. It was his fault, not mine. I ordered him to take me home. But when I started noticing we were not on the house to my house, I decided it was time to speak up. I said, home, James. I know, but I think we should go someplace quieter to talk. We need to talk about this. He calmly stated, not taking his eyes off the road. When a church came into view. Not just in church, but our church. The Advent Christian Church. A place I would be going tomorrow morning for Mass. Maybe he thought this was a mutual place for the two of us. He pulled his car into one of the front spots, turning his engine off. Well, come on, he said while getting out of his car. I followed, and sure enough, the door were open. I haven't been to church since my accident, and I have to tell you, it felt amazing. The moment I walked in the doors, I was on hollow ground. It felt like the chains that held me down snapped into millions of little fragments. I could breathe. Let's go to the prayer room. James featured to the south end of the church. A small room with no windows, just a chair, a pillow, and a cross hanging on the wall. When this very dirty thought came busting into my brain. I'm on hollow ground, demons can't come here. The words Madame Tunda told me rushed through my brain like speeding bullets. To break the contract, you have to lose your virginity to someone else. This may be my only chance to sever the bond between Eros and I. God forgive me. James and I walked into the prayer room. He went first while I followed, locking the door behind me. Last thing I need is the pastor walking in on us. I'm sorry, I should have said something to Gia. You were right, I didn't want to be the bad guy. His voice was quiet and hard to hear. Probably due to the fact his back was facing me. It took me by surprise for him to give so easily. I thought we were about to create World War III in the back of the church. I'm sorry, I should have told her we were on a date. We should have left. I felt hurt you didn't say anything. I thought you liked Gia and wanted to spend time with her. I felt so much sadness, leave with every word leaving my lips. James turned around and hugged my tinny figure, my little arms braiding with his limbs. This felt so warm and welcoming, feeling as thought all was forgive and a misunderstanding. Gia fell in the water because she tried to kiss me. When he spoke I could feel his chin resting on the crest of my head. She let go of her rope and I didn't bother to catch her. He chuckled. That made my stomach full to the brim with butterflies. Not only the fact he rejected her, but he could have saved Gia from her fall and didn't. He really did like me and there was no need for me to inflict revenge on Gia any longer. I craned my head back to look into his handsome sky blue eyes, our sweaty bodies not leaving any room for air. When he sat his forehead against mine, the want in my lips becoming unbearable, waiting for his kiss. When his lips gently caressed mine tasting of salt, until our tongues slowly searched every inch of each other's mouths. Then all I could taste was the sweet mint James must have put in his mouth earlier. Maybe he had planned this all along. Either way, I'm happy it happened and I now wanted to test the waters. I slowly started to sensually rub my hand over his back, deepening our kiss. I brought my hand closer to the front of his waistband, looping my index finger right against his V-line. He pulled away from kissing me. We should stop. He confessed heavily. Breath, he sighed. But like I said, this was my only chance. So I desperately and neatly spoke with no regret. We don't have to. I purred, closing the distance between us yet again, our mouth fueling more with passion and desire than before. James's hand cupped my breast, causing a release of small moans to fill his mouth, igniting the spark between us to burst into a full flame. Our kisses become sloppy as we undressed every article of clothing, revealing our insecurities, but not caring as the heat built. We stood only in our undergarments feverishly kissing, in a small sinful prayer room, our bodies slowly sinking to the floor, until his body blanketing mine. He left kisses along my jaw, running down my neck to give attention to both of my breasts. Not wanting this sweaty sports bra on anymore, I lifted it above my head, giving James the full view of what he's been waiting for. He took my nipple into his mouth, tasting the salt that beaded my areola. Its sensation felt phenomenal as quiet whimpers escaped with each breath I took. His fingertips slowly grazed down my sides, hooking my last remaining barrier. He gently slipped the panties off my legs, tossing them aside. I wasted no time, pulling his boxers down, revealing his rock-hard penis. Let's just say God blessed him. James tenderly kissed up my torso, paying considerate attention to my little pebbles once again. His mouth captured mine as I felt his hardness press against my wet flower, suddenly becoming embarrassed of my behavior. I was a virgin, but did he know that? I knew he wasn't a virgin simply by the way he worked his magic. The skill level of his touch was perfectly placed and I knew then I was not his first. My body stiffened at that thought and he took notice. Do you want me to stop? He asked, full seriousness in his eyes. This is the moment I should tell him. I'm a virgin. I faintly whispered, feeling embarrassed at my lack of experience. I felt vulnerable in that moment, waiting to be judged and ridiculed. However, all my fears resolved when he gave me a little smile that reached to his eyes. I know, so if you want to stop, we can. He paused, waiting for my permission to continue. I could feel the heat in my cheeks becoming a blushing mess. I bit my lower lip thinking, this is right. He was right for me. Keep going. I whispered innocently. James began kissing me, positioning himself once again, thrusting his hips in a dry humping. Its sensation sent me spiraling, needing more of what he had to offer. Sensing my desire, he picked up his pace, raking my body with new satisfaction. Satisfied with my reaction, he slowly positioning his head at my hot and ready entrance. Delicately pushing, he stretched me, causing pain. He patiently waited, stalling his movement, just enough for me to adjust to him, my brow furrowing, while I bit my lip to not let out a cry. The pain felt like knives stabbing my stomach repeatedly. Where was the pleasure? With my legs wide, he inched his full length in until it hit my crevice. The pain was more than I had expected as my fingers dug into the flesh of his shoulder. He steadily pulled out to push back in just a little faster. He was in no hurry and I was in too much pain for enjoyment. So he took his time kissing my chest, sucking my nipples, giving little bits of pleasure. The more I purr, the faster his pace became, until the pain slowly left my body. All my brain could think about was the sexual ecstasy he was giving me. My body started to build that family's pressure in the pit of my stomach. James licked his thumb, slitting his hand to my clit, then rubbing ferocious circles, giving me the best high I could ever ask for. A wave of blissful peace flushed around my body, crashing, pleasure after pleasure pulsing through me. He was amazing, this was amazing. God forgive me. Letting me rid out my orgasm, he searched for his own pull-out, then using his hand to finish himself. His seed ejaculating on the dark carpeted floor. I felt so embarrassed watching him, but so aroused at the same time. It wasn't until I saw the blood on his hands and dick that I panicked. How was I going to clean myself up? James smiled down at me, heaving out of breath. When he started to grab his clothes, put some clothes on, I will be right back. He smiled, kissing my forehead before getting dressed and leaving. So I put my bra and shirt back on, then stood behind the door. A few minutes later, James knocked, letting me know it was him. He had a warm washcloth in his hand. I was about to take it from him when he bent down and started to clean my mess. It was sweet but yet so embarrassing. I never thought I would ever feel this much embarrassment in my life. I didn't deserve someone as sweet as he. When he was done, he stood up, kissing me again. I pulled my sweaty pants back on and we left the prayer room. Not before atoning for our sins first, obviously. We left the church and the chain still felt weightless. Well, that was unexpected. James joked, knitting his fingers with mine, holding hands while walking to the car. It was. I smirked back, biting my lip. Virginity gone. Round 2. James drove me home from the sin-filled church. The car ride was peaceful, our fingers braided together and our smiles beaming. I lost my virginity in a church with an amazing boy. Yes, I like him. But I do feel a little bad for using him, but I needed a way to break the contract with Eros. James just happened to be the right guy for the job. I really like him, dare I say I might be falling for him. He fits all my puzzle pieces in all the right places. I would like to take you to dinner tonight, James asked. It was actually said as more of a statement than it was a question. Where did you have in mind? I gave him an all-knowing smile. Because I love food. I gave him a playful wink. James started to laugh, giving my heart an overload of warmth. I don't think I will ever get over how amazing his laugh makes me feel. Well, how about Jay Bruner's? He asked, pulling my hand to his lips for a kiss. Our fingers still laced together. Jay Bruner's was a very fancy restaurant. A single plate alone cost anywhere from $28 or higher. A steakhouse, if you will. But the chef there was amazing, coming up with new and inventive dishes. Are you sure? I could feel the uncertainty intertwine my vocal cords. I didn't want to make him feel like he had to lavish me with things just because he took my V card. Are you kidding? He playfully asked, squeezing my hand. I have been wanting to ask you for a year now. His smile unwavering. Besides, I know the chef, we will have the best set in the house. Well, then I can't wait. This was going to be another chance for James and I to talk, without the interruptions of noise people. As James pulled into the driveway, I grabbed my bag from the back. Just before I left, he gave me a mouth-watering, amazing kiss, telling me pickup time was 7 sharp. I was beyond excited, until I saw my brothers standing at the door watching. Don't you two have anything better to do than harass your sister? I sassed to the pair, rolling my eyes. Why are you all sweaty? Dean suspiciously inquired. I went climbing, duh. I brushed past the two, stepping into the house. I'm going to take a shower. I'm meeting James for dinner tonight, I said as I threw down my climbing bag. Where, Mom? I asked the two. Mom, I yelled, not waiting for their reply. Geez, do you have to sound like a dying pterodactyl? Damien hissed, covering his ears. I smirked. Why, yes I do. I scrunched my nose, bopping my head back and forth. And you love it. I teased like the younger sister I am. Yeah, well, not that. Dean swiftly stated. I giggled, running up the stairs. Love all of me or none of me. I hollered back to him, heading to the bathroom. Just before shutting the door, I heard Damien mutter something along the lines of, "She got you there," making me laugh even harder. I quickly striped my clothes, jumping in the shower, washing off all the dirt, grim, and sex sweat with coconut butter. For the first time since the accident, I was able to rest my face under the beating water. Relaxation taking hold of this amazing moment of peace. I haven't felt this since before. Knock knock, Rose, it's Mom. She yelled, muffled through the door. Come in. I hollered back, lathering my hair. I heard the door click open and a rush of cold air whipped through the shower curtain. What did you need, sweetheart? She asked, I'm sure looking in the mirror to fix something. I just wanted to ask if it was okay if James to take me to dinner tonight. My hair lathered full of foam bubbles, I popped my head out of the curtain, smiling widely. Please. My eyes met hers through the mirror, pleading with large flickering eyes and a pouty lip. My mother couldn't resist my baby face. Didn't you just see him this morning? She questioned, tapping her finger against her lips. Her eyes wandering around as if thinking really hard. I dipped my head back in the shower, continuing the conversation while rinsing my hair. That was climbing, Mom. It's different, I exclaimed. Plus James is a nice boy. With that I heard my mother giggle. Before I heard the sound of approval, the motherly sigh. I guess, but not too late. Home by 10. She eyes me when I popped my head out once again. My pearly whites shining bright like diamonds. My mother left without another word, leaving me to my endless thoughts. I loved the shower. It was a place of solitude, just me, myself and I. In that solitude, my brain kept a highlight reel of my first time. Replaying all my sinful deeds, I loved the way James treated me. As if I was an angel or a beautiful piece of jewelry. He was so gentle, sweet and kind. I'm so happy he was my first. Stepping out of the shower, I wrapped my body in a purple towel. Twirling my hair in another, settled on top my head. I made my way to my room, searching for the perfect outfit for a fancy restaurant. After about 10 minutes I found a cute tight white long-sleeved crop top, pairing it with a high-waisted pink and peach-colored skirt, making my skin look a darker complexion. I paired the outfit with cute, light tan wedges with simple plain straps. This was a very girly outfit for me and I have never worn this skirt before. But I'm happy Dina talked me into buying it. I took a look at my storyboard while I dried my hair. Trying to have a life while talking to the dead and solve a murder is hard work. Not to mention the demons claiming my soul. Come to think of it, I need to find a way to protect myself. So I grabbed my phone, searching Google for a protection symbol. The first picture popped up showing exactly what I needed. A protection symbol for the demon of lust. Aka Eros. The symbol looked easy to draw. So I grabbed a black permanent marker from my desk. The first line I drew looked like an exaggerated J. Next to that line was a large L, with a small vertical line running down through the horizontal line of the L. The last line drawn was a sideways J, slicing through every letter with a small circle at the top instead of the line. I drew this on my upper left forearm hidden under my shirt. I hope this works, I whispered, looking to the heavens. Before I knew it, time had come and gone. James pulled into the drive. Looking handsome as ever from my bathroom window, he walked to the front door. My mother sent my brothers on an errand so they didn't pull a stunt like earlier. Finally, the women helps me out. Before he had the chance to knock, I opened the door eagerly as my mother walked around the corner. Home by 10. No later. She smiled, but she was intimidating. Yes, ma'am. He smiled back, giving me his arm for support. We walked arm in arm to his car. He opened the door like a Gentile man. I didn't deserve this boy. I can't wait for a romantic dinner. Consequences. Our date was amazing, and we did have the best seats in the house. The chef's table stationed in the kitchen. We got to watch the man at work, chit-chat and have a good time. I had so much carefree fun. I didn't want the night to end. When we pulled up to my house, James skippered around his car to open my door, giving his hand. I gladly took it, letting him help me out of Huss' low-riding Mustang. We laughed and smiled, connecting on a whole other level. I don't know how I didn't see it before, but we were meant to be. If not forever, at least in this moment. It was amazing and I never wanted us to end. The porch light was on, and I could see my brothers looking at us through the window. So I did what any girl would do. I smirked at them, turned and locked my lips with James, taking him by surprise, before he gave in to the passion exploding between us. It was short-lived with my brothers interrupting, but I had already got my end-of-night mind-blowing kiss. Good night, Rose. He uttered lovingly, walking back to his car. Night, James. I waved, turning to push through my brothers. glaring disappointment sulking in their eyes. "Night, brothers." I snipped. I walked past my mother and father, alerting them I was home. Heading up to my room, I striped my clothes, pulling on comfy sweats and a baggy shirt. I took one last look at my storyboard before closing my eyes, praying the symbol I drew keeps the demons from entering my dreams. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my souls to keep. If I shall die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Amen. With my final prayer I welcome sleep. Drifting deep into the darkness, my breath drawing heavy. I felt my body sink into the mattress before my dreams took way. My body started to viciously shaking, jolting my head back and forth with immense rage. My hair flailing around, whipping my face. It was only after I finally awoke, I felt the vice-tight grip upon each of my shoulders. My room was pitch black. Not even the moon's light illuminated the sky. A loud growl erupted, vibrating my entire body. I felt so much fury ripple through the atmosphere, directed directly at me. "What did you do?" His gruff voice roared. "I can't feel you." It then clicked in my head. I couldn't see him, but I knew it was Eros. I did what was necessary. I retorted. "Looks like the symbol worked like a charm. He couldn't get into my dreams, so he had to wake me." Next step, blocking him from my home. Eros left my side, silently stepping in the dark. Suddenly my eyes were being blinded with the flick of the switch. My body involuntarily reacting to the light differential, squinting. "You stupid little girl." He sharply spat. "I was protecting you." His shimmering silver orbs glared down at me, his fingers still against the switch on the wall. "Protect. You were going to split my soul." I spoke with such anger rolling off my tongue. "You have no right to me anymore. The contract is broken." Eros broke out into a hysterical laughter, his black shaggy hair bouncing with every shrug of his shoulders. "Yes, I knew you gave what was mine to someone else." He took a step towards my bed. I felt it. He came closer. "I felt everything you felt." Lust evident in his voice. "Your pain." He moaned breathless against my ear. "And your pleasure." With his lewd behavior, a shiver struck my core. I have zero sexual desire for this man. However, every time he was near, I felt my body cry out for him. "How do you have this effect on me?" I whispered against his ear, his hair brushing the skin of my cheek. Eros pulled his body back, crouched down, staring directly into my eyes. "I'm an incubus, it's in my pheromones," he said, matter of fact. "Everything about me draws you in." The wickedness in his voice turned the acid in my stomach. "It's part of my demon charm," he whispered, only a breath's distance from my lips. I wanted to recoil, afraid of his touch. I didn't want to fall for another one of his tricks, even though every inch of my body wanted him. "You may have found a way to keep me from your dreams, but not a way to keep me from you." The harsh tone of his voice was menacing. "What's to say I don't visit your friend's dreams?" Dina right. His threatening had me on edge. I never thought of him hurting anyone else, other than his threat to James. "You wouldn't." I narrowed my eyes, glaring with every ounce of confidence I had left. "I could just slip down the hall to your mother's dreams." The ominous smirk curled, plumping his left cheek. He stood up abruptly as if heading right for my mother's room. I jumped, shooting out of my bed, stopping Eros from leaving. I took hold of his arm, stopping him just as his hand touched my doorknob. With wickedly fast speed, Eros took hold of my wrist, spinning me, throwing my back against the bedroom door, pinning me between two hard walls of solid wood. He inhaled deeply, still enjoying my lack of virginity. "James may have taken what was mine," he hissed, running his fingers along my neck, before roughly pinching my chin. "But it won't stop me from taking what's mine." His lips clashed with mine in a possessive and dominant manner. I took a deep breath through my nose, trying not to open my mouth. Worst mistake of my life. My body started to betray me. My mouth open, tasting all of Eros' savory saliva. His pheromones started taking hold of my senses. My body attacked him like an animal in heat. I wanted to stop. I needed to stop. But my body wouldn't let me. It was like I was trapped in my mind. Eros ground his hardened member against my core. Waves of heat drowned my sex with every course of friction. Our moans of pleasure filled the room, his hands roaming my body. He was nothing like James. He was a savage, forceful, and unforgiving. Without wasting his time, he stripped me of my sweats. I swiftly releasing his belt, my fingers tugged down, freeing his member from the cage of his jeans. Unlike my dreams, he wasn't teasing me. This was punishment. He was going to fuck me against my door for giving James what he thought was his. Taking his right hand, he hurriedly grabbed my left ass cheek, squeezing to the point of pain. Briskly bending down, he grabbed hold behind my knee, forcing my leg to rise, wrapping around his waist. His other hand positioned his dick before roughly thrusting, my body rebounding against the door. His left hand tugged at the nipples of my breasts, shooting pain and pleasure through my core, before tightly gripping my neck. The force of his grip held my head steady with every possessive thrust. It hurt my heart thinking of what we were doing. I cared for James. I didn't want this. I didn't want Eros. I was trapped sulking in my head, my body at the will of the demon. I'm still not his.